5 revelations I've been pondering for, oh my gosh, it's feasible it's even been several years, but it's definitely all of this year, it's increased. But I've not been allowed to do anything with them. So just, sometimes it's best just to rest, sit on them, and let's see what happens. Well, last night, before I went to sleep, I was praying and asking the Father, which of the 5 should I focus on? And I was going to focus on one, and that's kind of what I wrote about a little bit in the description, if you read that, or an email that I sent out to you. If you're not on my email list, please go to byroneasterling.com, and there's a link there that you can get on my email list. So I was asking the Lord, which one of the 5, and I thought I had it. And then, of course, in the middle of the night, I had this quite incredible dream. Just like the Father, to use a dream with me, to both focus and to kind of organize almost. So I am going to tell you the dream. Normally, I don't actually share dreams. I will share the interpretation, but I don't always feel like it's necessary to share the actual dream. Sometimes that gets in the way. But in this case, I think I'm going to share the dream. So I had been in the dream. Here we go on the dream. I had been on the road. I had been on a trip. I had been actually prophesying to some leaders somewhere in the nation. And I came home, and it was not our home we actually live in. So it was obviously not a literal situation. And I walk in, and there's a big group of people in sort of our main living area of this home. It was in the home in the dream, but it just wasn't the one we actually live in. Crystal had welcomed in this home group into our home. We had just started attending a new church. So we wanted to be involved. And so she invited this home group to meet. And it was, 30 or 40 people. I mean, it was big. It was not a home group to me. That's a small church. Anyway, so I walk in. They didn't greet me. Here I am, the owner of this home, didn't greet me, didn't say anything. Kind of frustrates me. And I go back, I take my stuff, I had a backpack and some, just stuff. I went back to our bedroom and I unpacked, and I was kind of, and I went out and I didn't know what to do because they were still in there and they weren't inviting me in. So I thought, well, I'm just going to sit here and watch TV. So in this other big room, there were 2 main big rooms. In this other room where I was with the TV, it was more casual. There were several seating areas. There was actually a bed that will come into play later. Now, I just sat there, and at one point then the group let out. And they all kind of were mingling together. There were people in the kitchen. There were different groups in different places around. There was a prep kitchen off the kitchen. Yeah, this is a fairly good size home. So my first thing I do is I get up and I go sit down at the counter by the kitchen. And it's young people. It's maybe families, young families, 20-ish to up to early 30s. And I'm trying to engage them, and they're not really engaging, but they're really welcoming. It's like they want to engage. It was really unique. I didn't quite understand it. So at that point I got up, and somebody kind of grabbed my arm and says, "Come, we'd like you to meet someone." And they take me over to this other corner. And there was an elderly lady somewhere, now in my generation. So she was older than me, but she was in my generation. And she was sitting in this gigantic green leather chair with her feet propped up on a footstool, right? And there was a bunch of older folks kind of gathered around her. And they brought me in, and she kind of scooted her feet over and said, please, have a seat on the footstool. And so I did, and I kind of just sat there and I said, hello. Didn't, no reply. The people are kind of waiting for something. And I was like, well, this is odd. And I kind of slid off and sat on the floor. I didn't want to sit there anymore. So I sat on the floor, and it felt really strange. So I was like, well, okay, I don't get this. I don't need this. This is weird. So I got up, and then I went into the kitchen, and there were people in the kitchen, and they were cooking up a storm. I mean, both in the prep kitchen and in the kitchen, they were just cooking up a storm. Our food, I mean, they were using everything, and it was our food, right? Okay. Then I went into the big room where the meeting had been. So keep following with me. I'm still there. And there were two ladies just laughing and chatting and having a great time. Perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. But sitting just a little from them, facing into a chair, like this lady crying, just in tears. And these ladies are just laughing and having a good time and fellowshipping and not paying any attention. Then I go back through the prep room, through the kitchen, and into that other big kind of casual room. There's a guy sitting in a chair, decided he would start a fire in the fireplace and then he's just sitting in this big chair reading the paper like this, doesn't see anybody, doesn't notice anybody, just in his own little world. And all of a sudden I notice that everybody's gone. So I kind of wander back through the kitchen and the prep room to see if everybody, and most people had left. Most people. The guy with the newspaper read, he was still there. The two ladies and the lady crying, they were still there. And then I walked back and I heard, don't you love dreams? I didn't see, there was a young couple on a bed in this other room that was public, open, and they were having at it, man. They were doing out the storm. And there was even their little boy, a little child was with them. And they were just, and I didn't see anything, but I heard it. And something in me just rose up, and I walk out, and excuse me, but in the dream, I literally said, what the hell is going on? Man. And in the dream. And I just said, I'm done. And I walk out the front door, and I get in a car. There's a driver. I'm almost done. There's a driver. It's an elderly lady who's just there. She's just there to help me get to where I need to go. Yeah. Then there's another guy in the front seat. He's maybe in his early 40s. And he turns around, he shakes my hand, and he asks what my name was. And he started to ask me, hey, what's up and how you doing? But in that process, he turns back around and he starts fiddling with a bunch of stuff in the front. And the driver, this lady, just such a helpful heart, says, where would you like to go? And I said, I want to go to my other home where the peace is. End of dream. So I have some things to say about this dream because these different groups really represent something to me. The first group, if you remember, it was the young couples, families, 20-somethings to early 30s. They were so willing. I really felt a hunger in them. There was something rising up in them, but they didn't know how to interact. They didn't know how to engage. I was trying to engage, and I could tell they wanted to engage. So when I was asking the Lord about this, he said, they want to engage, but they don't know how. They need instruction, but they're willing. They're willing and ready. So this group, they're hungry. They're after something. They just don't know. They need training. They need education. They need instruction, just even how to engage. Our system, our culture has lost, right, some of that engagement. The older folks that, even sitting on the footstool at her feet, there was this thing that they wanted me to honor her. They wanted me to honor this person who was sitting in this big green leather chair for what she had done. And all these people gathered around her were standing as if in to say, you need to honor her. And it was never said out loud, but it was definitely, that was what was in my spirit. And I was like, no, we do not need to be honored. My generation does not need to be honored. I'm sorry, we don't. We need to step in as mothers and fathers and do what we're supposed to be doing. It doesn't mean it's the only thing we will do, because there's many people our age in our society that need Christ. But I'm telling you, I don't need to be honored. I need to turn the corner and be the one who's mentoring and discipling and raising up a younger generation and passing on what I have and not worried about being honored. Now, I'm going to say that pretty strongly because I'm in that generation and I get to say that. Now, so there we go. What's next? What came next were all the individuals, the people cooking in the kitchen, and in the prep kitchen. Those were individuals, but interesting enough, they were serving themselves. They were eating all the food in our house. They weren't returning any. They didn't bring any of their own, and they were serving themselves or only their people, their friends. It was for them. It was, to me, very selfish feeling. And they didn't ask me if I wanted any. It's my food. They didn't even ask me, hey, would you like some? No, it was all about them. Then the two ladies who were just chatting, having a great time. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but they totally missed because they weren't looking past. They were kind of not, they were unawares. And then the hurting person. Now, sometimes we don't have the energy when we're in a hurting place to turn and ask somebody. But I think we have to. We have to learn to do that. Sometimes we just need to turn and go, I'm hurting. I need your help. And so she wasn't doing that either. Whether or not she was willing or unable at the moment, it's not part of the dream for me. Then the guy sitting in the chair, total oblivion to the max, sitting in the chair, had started the fire in our fireplace, just used it up. Okay, I wasn't worried about that. But reading the paper, didn't even know everybody had left. Just oblivious, like, oh, I'm in my chair. It's not, well, okay. And then the young couple on the bed. That was just no common sense. No common sense whatsoever. They'll just do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, and where they want to do it. No common sense. So I see these patterns of the young couples were welcoming. They desired to learn and grow. They just needed instruction. The old, that was to me an issue of they don't need to be honored. They need to become the fathers, mothers, trainers, equippers. And then the individuals, there were takers. Those were the folks in the kitchen. There were takers. The ladies were the unaware, the hurting, the guy in the chair, the oblivious guy. And then, of course, the no common sense. And one more guy, the guy who was in the car, who placates. He just placated me. He's just placating. So I'm asking Crystal, we're talking about this dream, and she goes, well, you know who you represent. And I said, to be honest, I'm not sure I do. And she says, you represent the Father. This is your house. And they didn't even notice you. They weren't even aware of what's going on. They weren't even involving you. They didn't invite you in. So what did you do? I left and I went to my other house. Now let me make this perfectly clear. In the dream, I owned both homes. I didn't leave this home and let it and sell it. It's my home, but I left it. And why did I leave it? Because I knew the other home had peace. Now, I also knew that in the dream, this other home that I was going to, is smaller, it's more intimate, it's peaceful. So I'm also talking with a good friend today he's a pastor in London, England. His name's Phil Woolley. And Phil is just great guy, loves the presence. And he said, Byron, you've said to me several times, presence, not programs. Otherwise, let's find the presence of God. Let's find the peace of God. Let's step into those. If programs come out of that, that's great. But let's not start with programs. Let's step into the presence of God. And I think that's what this other home represents. The Lord is after people who are hungry and going after his peace, his presence, his righteousness. Those things are what he's hungry for us to be after, that intimacy with him. I wrote down this. Um, I said, he's seeking intimacy so that we can walk with him in just a very humble way. That's why I went to the other house. Does it mean the other house isn't useful? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that because I left that house to go find the house of peace. So maybe that's something in your heart that you've had, is that you hunger after the house of peace, that house of presence. Listen, if you're receiving something as you listen to this dream and some of the interpretation, if you're receiving revelation, please, in the notes, please leave what you're receiving, because I'd like to go back and read them. So you might be receiving something. Don't feel like you shouldn't. You should add those in, because those are the facets of dreaming. There's other things that people go, oh, I got this. Okay, good. Let's look at it. Yeah, true. Okay, so what about those 5 revelations that I talked about at the very beginning? Okay, what I'm going to do is over the next weeks, because all of this dream came out of those 5, I believe, came out of those 5 revelations that I've been pondering with the Father. I believe that those 5 revelations are a setup and why he gave me this dream last night. Now, I'm going to, over the next coming weeks, I'm going to take each one of those and I'll let you know. Really, the best thing to do is, if you would, just click the subscription button on YouTube and then click the bell icon, and then you get notified when I'm going live. I'll try to let you know through email. If you're on my email list, again, it's you go to byroneasterling.com, and there's a link in the homepage there for getting on the email list. But and sometimes I try to keep up on other social media channels, but if it happens, it happens. But if you subscribe and click the bell, then you'll get notified. Cool? Yeah. So I pray, Father, that this dream and these 5 revelations that I've been pondering would be a heartfelt, life-giving moments for you and for me. So Lord, we bless this. We bless the body of Christ. I love the body of Christ, and I want it to be all it's meant to be and fulfill all that God has intended, because we will fulfill it. Yeah, cool. Well, in the meantime, until next time, have a great day. Love you guys. See ya.